Hello everyone, my name is Cuyahoga Ross, and today my video is called "My Son Was Threatened by a Boy in Juvenile Detention Center." Now, yesterday I received a call from my son, and I'm just putting this on record in case something does happen. Now, I received a phone call from my son, and he told me that he was having problems with this boy who's in Juvenile Detention Center. He had talked about this boy before, who he had issues with. There's a boy there who, I don't know what's going on or what the issue is, but my son said that this boy's threatened to stab him. And they've been having problems where this boy has threatened him before, jumped in his face, wanted to fight with him, pulled his shirt off or whatever, and confronted my son. And obviously this boy has issues. I'm not sure if he's even supposed to be in Juvenile Detention Center, but from what I was told, he does have issues. The boy was put in my son's room before because he was doing things that, would probably warrant that he probably has some type of issues, but I'm not sure. I can't say of that. I'm just making this video because I'm concerned about my son. And we want our rights like other people have their rights. Now, my son was stabbed before. If you all know, I made a video a while ago about my son being abused at Ohio Guidestone and a lot of things that happened there. And, I had brought it to the attention of the caseworker, and it was not taken seriously. My son ended up getting stabbed by another resident. He was stabbed two times by this individual in his neck. He has a long permanent scar on the side of his neck where he was stabbed, and in his chest. And so for my son to get threatened by another person here now, this juvenile detention center, of course, it's alarming and something that I don't want to take lightly. I want it to be taken seriously. And I did try to reach out to my caseworker as well as Jason Vicens, the supervisor of DCFS, who was one of the people who had filed the motion for my son to be taken from my custody. He has not answered any of my calls or responded to me, and I was not able to reach him or my caseworker. I did talk to my son's social worker for the juvenile detention center, and she did say that she was aware of the issue. It was brought to her attention that very day it happened. And I asked, was it possible if this boy could be moved to another pod, because he had been giving my son difficulties. And, from what my son told me, that boy was there because of attempted murder. So I'm not sure if that's true. But, I again, don't like to take allegations lightly. And I was worried about my son because this boy has threatened him and even jumped in his face where the staff had to hold him down. And she said she'll make sure she'll talk to them to keep him away, but she can't move him out of the pod. And so, I'm just bringing this here because, my son has, had issues in the past with children bullying him, doing things to him, and nothing ever gets resolved. When he goes to an adult, he has tried to talk to an adult. One of the reasons why the incident happened that led him to being taken from my custody, removed from my custody in the first place, was because he had been going through some abusive things and teasing from an individual at school, and they did not take it seriously or send forth any type of consequences or do anything to de-escalate the situation or prevent any further problems from occurring. And so when my son decided to react, he was actually the one who was given consequences. And I've noticed a pattern with this. And I don't want either my son to be, hurt or attacked by this individual. And I don't want my son to do anything to him. But my son is in a place where he feels threatened and he wants to, of course, protect himself. I mean, this boy is coming to him constantly. I don't know what the issue is. I don't know why he has a problem with my son. Like I said, I don't know if the boy is even supposed to be in that juvenile detention center. And with my son having a disability, and he's there as well, and he wasn't supposed to be there. So that's one of the things that I wanted to bring forth and put it on record, that my son has talked to me, has talked to other staff. Other staff were around when this young man threatened to stab my son. I was told that, by the social worker, that he doesn't have access to anything to stab my son with. But again, I don't want to take those threats or allegations lightly, because as you all know, when my son made a comment to other students and didn't even threaten an individual directly, but he made comments to other people that he was going to do something to someone, that was taken very seriously. My son had a restraining order filed against him. He was removed from his house, taken to a hospital where he was kept for over a week for an evaluation, then removed from my custody. So action is taken very seriously when my son does things or says something and people get protection right away, but it seems as if with our family, we don't have rights. Things are done to us, and we don't have anyone who will protect us or do anything. Like I said, back in Ohio Guidestone, my son was kept in a situation where a certain individual had stabbed him, and that person wasn't even removed from the group home. He was still there after the incident happened, and my son wasn't removed or nothing was done about it. So I'm getting to the point where, of course, I want people start taking threats made against me and my family seriously. And not only that, if something does happen to my son, I'm holding, Department of Children and Family Services and the Cuyahoga County Juvenile Court responsible, because as you all know, my son would not be in this situation in the first place if Jason Vincennes had not filed the motion to remove my child from the home. All of this happened because while my child was in the custody of DCFS, he was allowed to walk out of the group home which Jason put him in. It was not a secure place. He put him in this group home which my son was able to just walk out of and end up going to someone's home where they said he committed burglary and they had apprehended him. Now, that night, the Euclid police, who had actually apprehended my son, had contacted my daughter because they did not have my phone number and stated they would have sent him home and released him. But since he was not in my custody, they could not do that. They had to hold him inside this juvenile detention center. Now, we had our arraignment back in April, several weeks ago. My son's then public defender, as well as the DCFS worker, has stated that they did not feel that there was a suitable place for my son due to his disability. The magistrate had also agreed, and it said for them to find placement for him. Jason had promised this magistrate that he would be finding placement for my son that same week within 2 days of that arraignment, and that was something that was not done. I have not talked to Jason about this. I had contacted him and tried to reach out to him a couple times on a couple occasions to see how placement was going with my son. I know the last time I spoke to him, he said he was still trying to find placement, and that was about maybe 2 weeks after the arraignment. I have not heard anything about him since then. They still have not found placement. And so my son is still being held in this juvenile detention center where I'm concerned for his safety. These are some of the reasons why I speak out, because you have a child here who has cognitive delays. He has low IQ, poor development. And then it was, to my knowledge, he did not have autism, but, the supervisor stated that he has autism. I'm not sure if they found some other tests, but if he does have autism, this juvenile detention center where he's being held is definitely not the right place for him, especially when he's being threatened with violence. And so I just want this to go out on the record, because I know a lot of times when things are said, when my son tries to speak up to prevent things from happening and dissuade the situation, those who are in charge or who's supposed to act on his behalf to keep him protected and to keep other children protected and to prevent things from happening usually do not do anything. And so this is why I'm speaking out, to make a record of this, just in case something happens. I also don't want my son retaliated against or having to be put in a situation and being compromised to the point where he has to be forced to defend himself, and then he's has other charges and allegations imposed upon him and further consequences as a result of this situation. Now, the situation needs to be diffused. I would prefer that my son is removed from that juvenile detention center. But again, we have to wait for him to have an evaluation, which is something that still has not been done. I talked to my son, and the evaluation still has not been done. It's like people are taking their time moving, and I know they have a lot of children to deal with. But the thing is here, the court wants to alleviate themselves from the burden and responsibility, but they're the ones who ordered my children to be put in temporary custody. They're the ones who ordered my children to be removed from the home. So whatever happens while my children are within the custody of DCFS is at the responsibility and accountability of both DCFS and the juvenile court. And that's all I want to say. Thank you.